In 1892, African-American train passenger Homer Plessy refused to sit in a car for blacks, and rejecting Plessy's argument that his constitutional rights were violated, the Supreme Court ruled that a law that implies merely a legal distinction between white and blacks was not unconstitutional. So, as a result, the restrictive Jim Crow legislation and the separate public accommodations based on race become commonplace, and it is very obvious to see that the white community is still very up against the black community, and they don't want to accept African Americans to be equal, to be on equal status with them. And at that time, many bus communities and bus companies, they don't allow African Americans to sit in white people's area, and African Americans were required to give up their seats for white people at any time for no reason. So it is still very common for white people to look up on the black people, and it is very hard for black people to earn their born rights, human rights at that time, because the society was so against them, and they have no opportunities to get themselves any human rights like white people. And according to the writing the majority opinion in the 1954 case, the Chief Justice Earl Warren wrote that the doctrine of separate but equal has no place in public education, calling segregated schools inherently unequal, and declaring that the plaintiffs in the Brown case were being deprived of the equal protection of the laws guaranteed by 14th Amendment. And in 1955, an African woman named Rosa Parks was riding a city bus in Montgomery, Alabama, when the driver told her to give up her seats for a white man. And Rosa Parks refused at that time, and so she was arrested for violating the city's racial segregation ordinances, which it mandated that blacks sit in the back of the public buses, and they have to give up their seats for white people if the front seats were full. And as Rosa Parks was arrested for not following the segregation rules, and it is required by the bus companies that the black people must give their seats to white people with no reasons. So she was arrested, and the court at that time did not give her the right she should have. And finally, on November 13th, 1956, in Broder versus Galey, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld a lower court's decision declaring that the bus company's segregation seating policy was unconstitutional under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, and the segregation in public was finally ended, and Rosa Parks cases was overturned by this Supreme Court's ruling.